One of my maybe core principles is, I believe that there is a big difference in between playing not to lose versus playing to win.
Well, hello and welcome to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you're listening to this for the very first time, I want to say thank you for joining me. If you're returning, it is so great to have you back. And just a little reminder of what this podcast is all about. If you are growing a direct selling business and you want strategies and support to help you do that, you're in the right place. But I get to do two amazing things with this podcast. First, we absolutely get to help to educate you with skills that are working right now, whether it be on social media, in leadership, or strategic thinking. But the other thing that I get the honor of doing every single week on this podcast is shining a spotlight on an industry that changes lives every single day. And today is absolutely no exception. I'm honored to introduce you today to a special guest, Steve Fife, the president and CEO of LifeVantage. Now, whether you're familiar with LifeVantage or not, I know that you're going to find the changes that Steve has been working with the company to make to also reshape the industry as a whole fascinating. Steve comes with over 3 decades of leadership experience, mostly in the financial space. Steve is now looking at getting into the company as literally, he calls it the LV 360, a 360-degree view of the company to make change that's going to be long-term and sustainable. If you want to know a little bit more about what's happening in the industry and most importantly, what this incredible company is up to, I know you're going to enjoy this episode. So I want to thank Steve for joining me today. And most importantly, I want to thank you for listening on in. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee, sit back and relax and enjoy the chat that Steve and I had about the amazing journey of LifeVantage and where they're headed. Well, hello there and welcome back in to the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. I am so excited to be joined by my very special guest today, Steve Fife. Thank you for jumping on in.
Thank you, Sam. It's great to be here.
Look, I'm really excited for our chat today. You and I have had a chance to catch up several times and I've heard a little bit about your story and specifically what you guys have been up to over the last couple of years. But before we get into some of the amazing things going on at LifeVantage and also some of the incredible things that you guys have done in a very interesting time that we're in right now, I'd love to hear a little bit about your background and for our listeners to get to know Steve Fife a little bit. So would you like to share with us a little bit about your history, I guess, in the direct selling industry? Because you've been around for a bit. You've got some amazing experience. So tell us a bit about you, Steve.
Yeah, no, happy to. It's I don't know. I feel a little different because I'm not one of these guys that, despite my hair color, has been in the industry for a long, long time. And my path is a little bit different, perhaps. I graduated in accounting and started with one of the big 4 accounting firms, and really I think cut my teeth on business during that time, and then for a number of years, I'm originally from the California Bay Area, and so I have a lot of experience with technology companies. And what I loved about my time in public accounting was it exposed me to a number of different industries. And I loved going in and trying to figure out what made companies tick. I was fortunate to see a lot of very successful companies and some companies that were struggling a little bit. But just that ability to get in and understand those drivers was always really something that I enjoyed. And as my career progressed, always on the finance side of the business, I went through the progression, became a CFO, and I've been the CFO of a number of companies. And I was recruited to LifeVantage as its CFO. And I've been with the company for just over 7 years now, and enjoyed enjoyed everything, but I was totally new to the industry. I didn't know anything about it when the recruiter called me and said it was a multi-level marketing or a direct selling company. I said, well, what's that? And because of my background with seeing so many different companies or industries, it never really bothered me, and it was just another challenge or an opportunity for me. So came in and we did some good things, and about 3 years ago the board asked if I would step in as the CEO. So it was kind of a interesting journey, not one that I planned or aspired to, but here we are.
I love it. And I've got to ask the question, what was your first impression of this industry coming in and having that sort of accountability background and being CFO of several companies outside of this industry and then being thrown literally into the industry cold? What was your first impression? Because let's face it, it's a unique industry to say the least.
Yeah, how honest should I be here?
I think very.
I started in April and on a Monday, and that weekend, that Friday and Saturday, was a global convention for the company.
Oh, wow. You really were thrown in the deep end.
I still to this day wonder why no one kind of pulled me aside and said, Steve, this is what you should expect. But it was at an event center in Salt Lake City, and I remember driving there and parking and getting to the venue, and I was walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden I heard this music. It was kind of faint, thumping going on, and the closer I got to the entrance, the music got louder and louder and louder, and and then someone greeted me there and they said, yeah, no, we've got a place for you to sit. So they opened up these doors and, the lights were going and the music was pumping. And I don't know, there were probably 6,000 people there. And I sat there for 2 days just kind of in bewilderness as to what. In fact, the first night we were actually relocating from Austin, Texas to Salt Lake and had sold our home. And I called my wife and said, I'm not sure what I've gotten myself into. And she very politely said, suck it up. we're moving. The house is sold. And I look back on that as just, I mean, how far I've come is,
Yeah.
I love this industry. It's really been a unique experience for someone like me that's been in very traditional big company corporate America to have an experience like this in my career where it's kind of totally different and it's very individual and you see the impact in lives.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'd never really had an opportunity to see or be part of. And so, I've grown to love the industry.
Yep. And if someone had sat you down at that event and said, one day you're going to be the CEO of this company, what would you have said back then?
Not likely. No, not in my wildest dreams did I think that would happen.
Yep. I think it takes very special individuals to lead this industry, and there are certainly some things I'm excited to chat about with you now around what you've done over the past few years. But I mean, let's talk just for a moment about the last few years. It's been a really interesting roller coaster, right? Because we dealt with, the I don't know when we're ever going to stop talking about this, but we dealt with that roller coaster that happened around COVID, right? Let's just go there
Right.
for a moment,
Yeah.
where a lot of companies saw a great big surge, and then I think a lot of people got into a place of maybe complacency, and then the industry took this big sort of dive. And now a lot of companies right now, and we're seeing a lot of closures because people just haven't been able to pull themselves out of that dive. But a lot of companies right now are having to re-evolve and reevaluate. Can you tell us a little bit about how you have been leading LifeVantage over those last few years, what your observations have been about those patterns and what you guys have done to get yourselves to where you are today? And there's a lot in that, right? So I'll let you of lead the charge here with the
Yeah, I'll
conversation.
unpack it a little bit. I'm sure I'll miss a few of those
We'll
questions,
come
but
back. We'll come back.
but,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was. I mean, COVID turned the world upside down, and I think for a moment there was kind of preservation of let's just kind of get through this. When in the early days we didn't know what was going on, and
Five.
like you mentioned, a lot of companies, including LifeVantage, saw some early success from that.
Yep.
And that was I stepped in as the CEO right at that time, right when COVID was starting to be a thing, and I what we saw was, and what I felt, I guess, was coming out of that, there were going to be so many dramatic changes to the world, but consumer buying habits and patterns, how they bought, what they were looking to buy, and in kind of that world of uncertainty, I really think we took advantage and pivoted as a company. And by pivot, we are 100%, all in on the multi-level marketing direct sales model. But since that's been around 100 years and we've been around 15 years as a company, I felt like we had to do something to change.
Yep.
And what we started with was figuring out, what the core drivers of our business. I mentioned earlier on, that's where my passion started, very early in my career, is what was really driving this, and where was this going to be, because it wasn't going to be the same as pre-COVID. That was a given. And I knew that our science, our products are phenomenal. I'll stand our products up against anyone. But there was going to be a different need as people buy differently. And so we looked at our product strategy. And one of the things that we felt was really important, that our products needed to be true to our science background, but they also needed to be demonstrable. And people needed to see that difference. And the reason for that is because more and more products, consumables, and are were being purchased through on online sources, right? And it's not enough to talk about the science, but people want to see and feel the difference. And so that was a big step for us, and really, we I guess cleared the or developed the identity of who LifeVantage is and what differentiates us from all of the other companies out there. And where we landed with that, and again, it goes back to 15 years ago in our flagship product, is we are the activation company. And activation is much different than supplementation.
Mm-hmm.
And, we simply said, you take LifeVantage products to make what your body was originally programmed or did before the aging process, before the environment, before poor eating habits, before the lack of exercise, and all of those things. So it's not supplementing your body, it's actually getting down at a cellular level to address very specific needs and concerns. And our flagship product is a product called Protandim NRF2, and it activates the NRF2 pathway in our body. That pathway is responsible for the creation of antioxidants. Antioxidants combat oxidative stress. So it's very focused, addressing something very specific. And as part of this product roadmap and product design, we said, what else is there that we can focus our energies on? And about 2 years ago, we introduced a collagen product that activates the production of collagen in our product. In fact, it's been scientifically proven to increase the production by 100 of collagen density by 100%. So we know that is working in our bodies, and it replenishes and maintains that collagen production. And it's been a success for us as a company. And then we've just recently, just a month ago, launched another product, and I'll talk more about that maybe in a minute. But that story of creating our differentiator and being able to communicate it and explain it in a way was really critical to our evolution as a company. And the second biggest thing that we did was really look at our compensation plan. So how we compensate our consultants, distributors, whatever you call them, we call them consultants now. And that plan that we had was a good plan 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But as the world evolves, we felt that our plan needed to evolve and be consistent with the selling practices that exist today. And so we made for about a year, there was a group of about 8 people that worked, I guess, in secrecy to develop a plan that I think is, one of the best, if not the best, in the industry, because it maintained a lot of the elements of a very traditional network marketing plan, where if you build a team of individuals and they're successful in selling products and attracting other people who sell products, you can have a very nice legacy like income.
Mm-hmm.
But with our new plan, what was important is that it was attractive to people that just wanted to sell product. They weren't as interested in building a team, that they had already created brand awareness around who they were individually and have followings. And so, how do they monetize that following? It's not necessarily by creating a bunch of other people, or enrolling a
Yeah.
bunch of other consultants.
Yeah.
It's by leveraging that brand that I have. And this is true if you have, 100,000 followers or 10. There are
Yeah.
people that just want to sell product. And our compensation plan now can be a very competitive, lucrative plan, commission for those types of people. And marrying those two together into a single plan where you don't have to decide, do I want to sell product or do I want to build a team and I have to choose a path, or all of the products are available to both parties.
Yeah.
So it's really opened up a whole new avenue of sellers that are coming and joining LifeVantage right now. So
Amazing.
that, coupled with demonstrable products, has led us to where we are right now. And we've made a lot of other changes. We looked at our digital footprint and made enhancements on our technology. Our social platform is much different today than it was 3 years ago. And you wrap all of that around a community, and that community piece was really lost in COVID, right? People longed for being connected to something.
Yeah.
And so we emphasize that with our customers and our consultants, and that piece now is kind of has been shored up. So we're excited about this journey that we've been on and where we are right now, but super excited about where we're going.
Yeah, I love it. And, one of the things that, you named this transformation as well. It was one of the things that stood out to me. You called it LV360, which obviously is like LifeVantage 360, where you took this overall view of the business and said, what do we need to change? And I love that, because I think a lot of companies, and, you've made the mention that, hey, this compensation plan worked great 15 years ago. But I think one of the things that we see a lot in this industry, sadly, is when you've got companies that have been around for a really long time, they often get caught up in the history of this is just how we do things. And what you guys did was kind of ripped it all apart and said, right, it may be how we've done things, but it's not necessarily how we're going to continue doing things. And the other thing that really stood out to me was that you went, okay, we're seeing a lot of companies right now that are jumping into affiliate marketing. They're moving out
Mhm.
of MLM or network marketing and the team building side of things. And they're saying, look, we're just going to jump ship completely over to affiliate, which is very scary for a lot of people who have been building businesses and asking themselves the question, can I trust that my company is going to be around for me if I build a team under this brand? And what I love is that you guys have said, okay, we see that there is value over here with affiliate, but also there are the team builders. Um, what was what was the thought process behind marrying those two together? And did you find that difficult to establish? Did you have kickback, or was it really welcomed by people? I'd love to know what because changing compensation plans, let's face it, is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. I'd love to know what that looked like for you guys over that time and how that's been accepted.
Yeah, you know, it was something that um, when I look back on my career, how we developed this and rolled it out was really done well, and I've got great people that did all of it. But when I mentioned earlier, we had about 8 people that were involved in the development of this
Yeah.
plan. What we did was we identified 2 of our top consultant leaders and who were kind of, I'd say, almost poster children for business builders and customer gatherers.
Mm-hmm.
And we brought them under the tent and had them sign NDAs that they weren't going to talk about it at all. We hired a third party compensation plan expert, and then we hired an individual, and then there were other members of our corporate team that got involved. But those 8 people, like I said, worked on this for almost a year. And when it came time to start rolling it out, we had 2 leaders that came from very different backgrounds who had been involved in the process
I
and
love
were
that.
champions of a unified combined plan.
Yep.
And they could speak. It was a very data driven process. We didn't look at the impact on any one individual until a couple of weeks before, because we didn't want to play favorites or cater to different people. We wanted to create a lasting plan here.
Yep.
And by lasting, I think you constantly have to evolve. And in fact, we actually named our compensation plan Evolve, because it was a big evolution from the plan 15 years ago, and we'll continue to make tweaks as the world changes, as our industry changes.
Yep.
But having buy-in from those top leaders, and then we kind of cascaded this down where we brought in and the next tier of leaders, and then the next tier, and so when we officially launched it, all of the top leaders in the company were aware of it. They'd had one-on-ones and training on it, and they bought in. So it was not this big, the sky is falling, we've changed the comp plan. They were brought along as part of the process. And I haven't, 18 months later now, not one person has said to me that it wasn't needed. This change was needed for the company. Now,
Yeah.
not everyone is happy with the impact necessarily that it had on them, but even those people haven't said this plan is messed up. We should have never made a change like this. But they saw the changing tides.
Yep.
And fortunately, we got ahead of that, and we have 18 months ahead of into this now, and we're not faced with that decision around, are we going to go affiliate or do something different, because our plan allows for that kind of behavior to happen.
Yeah.
And having that, again, experience under our belt shows people. And our team, I'm sure there are people that at LifeVantage that wonder, where is this really going? But most of the people see our commitment and doubling down on network marketing, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I love that. That is so powerful. And the fact that you have brought leaders in, again, we see a lot of companies where there is this separation between corporate and field. They're two very different departments, very different areas, and yet they need to work so closely together. And I think that's really powerful that you've acknowledged that and said, okay, well, you can have too many cooks in the kitchen, right? But
Yeah.
bringing in a couple of leaders, and thinking about what's their experience, so having the two very different sets of ideas and experiences is really powerful, and I think it's a really it's such a breath of fresh air to hear that we can still innovate. I think there's this assumption for a lot of people that, well, we can't change. We've always been like this, and so we can't change. And I think you guys are such a great example of, well, you can. It's just how you go about making those changes is really critical. And I love that you guys have been able to do this in a way where you're understanding we can't keep everybody happy, but at the same time, it's about growing the business and therefore the people within the business as a whole. So that's really
Yeah.
super exciting.
Yeah, there's LifeVantage, like a number of companies in this space, experienced some really rapid growth,
Mm,
in the early days, and then has plateaued for the last several years. And part of that reason, I believe, is and one of my maybe core principles is, I believe that there is a big difference in between playing not to lose versus playing to win.
yeah. Yeah.
And I
Offensive versus
felt
defensive, right?
pardon me.
Offensive versus
Yeah,
defensive,
that's
right?
right. That's right. And I think that, playing to win, if you're behind and you're playing to win, it means taking a few risks,
Mm,
and ideally calculated risk, and you know what the ramifications are. But when we started this journey a few years ago, I wasn't interested in just continuing to maintain. There was so much opportunity for us with our product offering, with our incredible field that we have. They were hungry for things, and we needed to do something to, you know, try to create some momentum or put us into activity.
yeah.
And so this was a calculated risk what we did, and but I wouldn't have it anyway. It wasn't crazy, banking the farm on things, but it was trying to move the company. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a huge, again, a huge difference of winning versus just being content and comfortable with where you are.
Yeah, awesome. Steve, I want to ask you a really pointed question now, and I hope I don't offend anyone with this question, but I've got to ask it, right? You've come in as CFO, you have got experience in the financial side of things, and as an accountant, as being your level of expertise. I see a lot of people coming into the role, particularly in this industry, which is a high spending industry when it comes to compensation plans, which is what we're talking about now. Even conferences and conventions, there's a lot of expense goes into those areas, and we often see people in roles such as CFO or having the background that you have. They're looking to save money. What was your vision for the company when you came in? And I don't see the impact you've been having as being one of, hey, we're just going to cut all of these costs back. Why are you different in that way? And what was your vision when you first stepped in? And maybe how has that changed to now? There's a lot of questions. Again, I'm doing a really good
Yeah,
job.
yeah. I'd say when I started as the CFO 7 years ago, um, I looked more at the cost and kind of I probably did play that role that you described and cutting back some on some of the things, but there's ROI or return on investment, I think gets maybe thrown around a little too much. But, I think as the CFO, constantly challenged, what are we getting out of this? And
Yeah.
is there a bigger bang for this buck?
Mm-hmm.
And I think the tone within the company from that standpoint had kind of been established as I was the CFO. And since then, and I also haven't been afraid, even as the CFO, to invest in growth opportunities.
Yeah.
And so a lot of if there's any cost reductions, it wasn't necessarily just to make sure it all falls to the bottom line, but it's where we can take those funds and make them more efficient for the overall company.
Yeah.
And if you look at our financials over the last few years and going through this LV 360, we invested over $8 million in putting it back into the company to drive it. So, and our profitability took a hit for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and our board was aligned around it. I'm not sure all of our shareholders all the time were aligned around it, but now that we're through that major internal investment and we have our product strategy clear, we have our compensation plan in place, we're able now to grow our profitability, which we have for the last few quarters. I think that's going to continue. And we're also able to provide excess cash return back to our investors now because we stayed financially stable during that heavy internal investment period of time. So it's probably I probably don't know any other way, but just because I've been doing this for so long, and there is a lot of spending in this industry, but I think our team now appreciates looking at those and making sure that we're getting the value out.
Yeah. And a left of center question here, but again, it's one that and I didn't prepare you for this one, but I got to ask it anyway. I see a lot of pushback from a lot of companies now, as especially over the last few years around conventions, and can we really justify this? And it's a really challenging one, right? Because convention is what you said before; it's that community that people really missed out on during COVID. What's your opinion of conventions? Are they important, or, are they maybe becoming something of the past and things are shifting in that space in this industry?
Yeah, no, I think they're critical. I really do. And like everyone, not just in our industry, but the world during COVID, when we were shut down, and this was our communication, right? Doing Zooms and
Yeah.
these kinds of things. And we did virtual events. And you try to make it as impactful as you can. But at the end of the day, and there was a period of time where I'd say even some of our leaders said, this is so much more efficient. I'm
Hmm.
never going to do another in-person event again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And, you fast forward 6 months after statements like that were made, and the success that at least LifeVantage was having was coming to those people. This is post COVID, but
Yeah.
people that were re-engaging, not just one-on-one, but in group meetings and everything. And
Yeah.
so we've landed now on kind of a hybrid model where we still have a convention and another two in North America, two large events that are in person, and we do two virtual events.
Yep.
Um, but we're also at those virtual events. Um, our consultants organize watch parties. So they're renting
I love
hotel
that.
rooms or they're having people over to their house. It's not, the expectation is very high that they're bringing their teams together. So
Yeah.
that culture within their team is happening in those two virtual settings. And then we still have monthly meetings throughout the US, and this is true throughout the world as well. We operate in about 20 countries. But just speaking about the U.S., we still have monthly meetings throughout the U.S. and the attendance of those things are continue to pick up
Yep.
because people want that interaction. Part of
Yep.
it is culture, part of it is recognition, and just again feeling part of a group.
Part of something, right? I think that's so important. And we've seen a few companies over the last, I'm going to say 6 months. I reckon there's 5 companies we've sadly seen completely exit the industry or close
Mm-hmm.
altogether. And we've got many people from those companies that have been inside of our memberships that we've been mentoring through this process. And the resounding response from people when they find out their company is closed or is shifting out of the industry is not first that they're going to miss the product. Yes, that it comes to that, but it's actually, I'm going to miss the people. I'm not going to be at another company conference. I'm not going to get together with my friends, the people that have become my family. And I think we often, I don't know your opinion on this, but I think as a whole, that part is often forgotten about. And particularly, you and I have met before at industry events. And
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of focus at industry events around compliance and around compensation plans and around marketing. But I don't often hear a lot of focus or attention being paid to the importance of that community that you guys have been so amazing at building and creating. And yet it's the first thing that distributors talk about when it's taken away is the community and the connection. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
It's critical. I agree 100%. And you know, I think part of one of your questions a few minutes ago is around LV360
Mm,
and why success and why 360 and looking at all of this stuff. I think as a company, um, over the past several years, what would happen is we would focus our attention on a product launch, or we'd focus it on an incentive or a promotion or a cult aspect of our culture. And every time we focused on it, we would see some improvement.
mm,
And I'll simplify by improvement by just talking about revenue. There are a lot of other side benefits as well, but
yeah.
a bump in our revenue. But as soon as we shifted our focus from that to something else, that would kind of dip back down to the same level.
Yep.
And so and I refer to it as we were too much of an events driven business, and
Mm-hmm.
not events like you were just talking about with convention, but there had to be an event to
Sale or
trigger any kind of again, a promotion, a trip, all of these things
yeah.
I put into that event category. And we had to stop that. It wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't generating um, long-term growth. And that's why we looked holistically at all of these pieces, because
Mm,
they had to work together.
yep.
And that culture is one of those pieces that has to be embedded with your products, with your comp plan, with it. So the pieces had to fit together for us to have a chance of having some success.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, I want to chat about innovation now, and you've been talking about innovation as far as companies are concerned, and we've got a lot of distributors that listen to this podcast, and so I want to talk about something you touched on a little bit before, which was you're talking about products and you're talking about the amazing products that you have. And, there are lots of incredible products in this industry. I know, you guys have put huge amounts of research into what you do, but in such a competitive space, how do you influence and impart knowledge into your field to help them? And I want to speak directly into the distributors now, because I'm sure there's a lot of people asking the question, and some people might even be hearing you talking about your products going, oh, great, there's another really amazing product out there to compete with mine. How do you encourage people to promote their product And how do you guys promote your product in such a competitive space? Because it's one thing to have it, it's another thing to communicate it. And if we don't empower the field to do that in an impactful way, then what's the point? You can put all of the research into a product you want to, and if you can't market it, you're stuck. So how do you guys get that messaging out there, and how do you help your field to get that messaging out there as well about your incredible products?
Yeah, the word that kept flowing through my head as you were talking was simplification. Simplify our messaging. I think for I started off by talking about Protandim NRF2, and there are over 30 peer review studies on this. It's patented. Major universities have done studies on it. We're in PubMed.org. It's all out there, but I don't think people want to know a product works, right? And then the way they're judging that is, how does it impact me? Do I feel it? And so for us, and again, this journey was taking that foundation that's core to who we are, that science, but simplifying it.
Mm-hmm.
It's where our our activation story came from. It's where take it to make it comes from. And we've got a lot of literature on our websites. We've got all of the studies there, but when you look at our website and the materials that our consultants are using, it's a one pager around Protandim, that you take Protandim to make antioxidants. And why? Because it's a million times more effective than any other antioxidant that you can take. You get that, right?
Yeah.
You didn't
Mm.
have to go to medical school to understand all the reasons why.
Yeah.
Um,
You made me,
and
sorry, Steve, I've got to mention and add, and any of our Australians here will laugh at this, but whenever you mention the word antioxidants, I just hear Auntie Who. I don't know if you guys had this. We had a tea bag, or a tea, I should say, in Australia. We have a lot of tea drinkers in Australia, and there was an ad on TV when I was a kid, and there was this little kid who was trying to explain the benefits of drinking tea to his parents, and they mention the word antioxidants, and the kid goes, "Auntie who?" And it's just that. Sorry, you just got me thinking about the simplification, as you said, right? We don't need
yeah,
the big words.
that's right. That's right. That's exactly right. So that's what we've tried to do with our products. We still have a lot of science behind them, but make them simpler for people to understand, because
Yeah,
it is competitive, and people's attention spans in terms of learning. They want to know, I feel this problem. I just want to get it or fix it, right? I
yeah.
want to take something that fixes it.
So, given all of that, I think that's a really good transition into this, because there's a balancing act, right, between simplification and innovation. And then you've got trends over here, which can be really tempting. And there's a time and a place for following trends. How have you guys tell me a bit about your product innovation, because you guys have put so much time and emphasis and focus on this, and you've got some really exciting developments that have happened in the last few months. But tell us a bit about that. How do you innovate your products, but still keep it simple enough that people can communicate it?
Yeah.
And and how does that then get influenced by health trends or trends that are going on right now? Where and when do you guys step into that and go, there's something we got to jump on here?
Yeah, no, that's great. We have a relatively small R&D team,
Mm-hmm.
but they are hyper focused on activation. What is there in our body that we feel that from a nutraceutical, a natural background, we can influence in a positive way that, again, is demonstrable? and that we can make claims around. We can do studies. We can prove the efficacy
Yeah.
of it.
Hmm.
And I mentioned NRF2, more recently collagen, and after our collagen launch, that team went kind of back to the drawing board. So what can we do next? And to your point around trends and what's going on, we felt they came back and felt very comfortable that there was opportunities for us in the weight management space.
Hmm.
Um, LifeVantage has never really had a product line around weight management at all. We know just generally, that there's a high percentage of the population that are looking to maintain or lose weight
Yep.
in the U.S. and throughout the world. So the available market is massive, and we didn't play in that at all. And as they started, this is what well over a year ago now, exploring the opportunities, they started to hone in on a hormone that everyone is familiar with right now, GLP-1.
Hmm.
And it's a hormone that's produced in our bodies, down in our lower intestines and our colon. And just like oxidative stress, the production of that hormone decreases over our lifespan as we age. Again, environment, food, exercise, all of these things that cause us to start slowing down. And one of the reasons why the older you get, the more difficult it is to lose weight is
Yep.
because the production of that hormone just diminishes. And so we saw a massive market, and a year ago, an opportunity to play in that. And fast forward to when we started talking about this publicly in the July-August timeframe, where we announced results from a in vitro test that we had conducted that were very, very promising. We brought a group of our consultants kind of under the tent and gave them a product to test and measure and weigh their results over a 6-week period of time, all while simultaneously doing a third-party independent human clinical study. And we had, I guess in August, said that we are going to be launching a weight management product at an event that we had in the U.S. in October 11th. And we started building all of this foundational information, the before and afters from this group of 55 people. Our human clinical was completed at the end of September. Based on the information, we were able to file and submit a patent for it in the US because the results are so amazing. So you're hearing all of this science, right? That a year in development and all of that focusing on the GLP-1 production. And when we got the human clinical back, the results, that we've published are 140% increase in the production of GLP-1, up to 27% reduction in visceral fat, which is the fat around our internal organs, the real nasty, dangerous stuff, up to 5% reduction in overall fat. And then as well, on top of those things, 100% of the participants who lost weight did not lose any muscle weight,
Wow.
and which is huge in any kind of weight management type product. And then there, kind of the qualitative results was, 95% of the people had less craving for sugar, 95%, ate smaller portions, all of these other things that all led to us believing we have, an incredible kind of breakthrough product. And we launched the product on, like I said, October 11th. We sold out of our initial inventory in 13 days. So we're in a back order situation right now, but our field, our customers, fully understand. They were fully educated while we were building up to that event. The world has kind of educated all of us on GLP-1, so there wasn't an education to new customers looking at LifeVantage, and as a result of this, and the the work that we had done as part of LV360 and our compensation plan change, this was really kind of the final missing piece of that puzzle to pull it all together. It's what has early days, but a phenomenal success for us.
Wow.
And our inventory will be back in inventory here in another few weeks,
Yep.
and I expect that that's going to continue just to our revenue is just going to continue to grow as
Yeah.
that inventory becomes available.
I love it. And so many directions I could go with this, but I know that we need to wrap up because I've taken up so much of your time already, Steve, and I really do appreciate you jumping on in and chatting with us today. But thinking about the distributors themselves for a little moment, what advice would you offer to them as they grow a business? If they're sitting there and wondering, what are some tips you could leave me with today? You're a CEO of an entire direct selling company. What wisdom could you impart on them as they grow their businesses maybe from the ground up, wondering what next? How do I grow? How do
Yeah,
I navigate this environment that we're in right now?
yeah, I'd say one of the first things is to treat this as a business.
Yeah.
You are the CEO of your business. I'm the CEO of a 200 plus $1 million publicly traded company, but you are a CEO of your business. And depending on your energy, your level of commitment to your business is where the success is going to come from. And then this partnership you mentioned earlier, I am so proud of the partnership that we have between our corporate team and our consultants right now, because we really are in lockstep. And that is, having those positive partnerships is critical to success in any business, right? And I'm fortunate that our board of directors is aligned with us, our employees are all aligned, we're all kind of rowing in the same direction. So I look for opportunities where that exists, because there's enough challenges, external challenges that come to all of us.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that we can control and we
Yeah.
can do. And trust your develop and your leadership, the people that you bring in, because and give them chances to grow.
Yeah.
Again, that's one of my primary jobs, is to surround myself with good people
Yeah.
and let them leverage the skills that they have. I think that's true with consultant leaders as well,
Mm-hmm.
because everyone brings a little something different, and it's when all of those things come together where the
Yeah.
magic happens.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I feel like that's a whole nother conversation for another day, because being, to say be a CEO of your own business, I think that's such amazing advice, but it probably leaves a few people going, well, what does that mean?
Yeah, yeah,
I've never been a CEO before, so we might need to have a conversation around that. Um,
yeah.
so we'll leave that one kind of hanging. But Steve, I mean, given where you've come from, and you mentioned at the very start of this conversation that you love this industry, where would you personally love to see this industry grow? And, are there any specific changes you'd love to see happen over the coming years to see this industry flourish and thrive?
Yeah, I think that the opportunity for all of us in this industry is there. There are so many people. I don't believe that people are going to gravitate back to 9 to 5 jobs and are looking to work for 40 years. That ship has sailed a long time ago.
Mhm.
And so the opportunity of attracting people to our industry that are looking for side hustles and earning the $500 or $1,000 a month, but also people that want to make big money,
Yep.
that they want to turn this into something that's big. We can be a home to that whole spectrum of individuals.
Yeah.
It's just up to us and how we behave, right? And you have to have the right tools. You have to have first, you have to have the right products, but then you've got to be able to attract those people and give them, paint the vision of what this can be. I think this industry is going to continue to grow. I
Mhm.
don't think it's going to grow how it did 50 years ago, but it is going to continue to grow because people long for this. We have to get ourselves out there. We've got to be loud about what we have to offer.
Yeah. Yep. I completely agree with you. And I think a lot of that comes to working together. And I'm going to throw that one out there. I think a lot of, we're seeing many companies coming together now saying we need to be a team to have this industry thrive. And I think, it would be so great to see more of that. But Steve, I want to ask you my 4 favorite questions, then we're going to wrap up.
Okay.
Question 1 is this: what is your favorite book for us to add to our accelerator book list?
Good to great.
Oh, good one. I love it. I love it. He knew that one off the top of his head. Look at that. If you could have a superpower, any superpower, what would it be and why?
Um, I don't know if this is a superpower, but I'd want to be able to fly.
I think it is. It's our most a common answer to
Is
that
it?
question.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, now I take it back. I don't
No,
like
you
being
can't.
common.
All right, if you could pick a secondary superpower, you can make a superpower up. There's no
Well,
limit
it would.
to superpowers anyway.
No, I'm going to stick with flying.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the perspective that you get by
So
being able to
is it
fly.
because you want to be able to get places, or is it because you want to be above everything? It's the perspective, the
It's the
experience.
perspective. It's the
Okay.
perspective.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
hear the
It's not
two
just
different
getting from
angles.
point A to point D
Yeah.
faster.
Okay. We get a lot
It's
of
being
people
able to have
answering
it.
it from that
Yeah.
perspective. It's like, I want to be able to just get places fast.
Mm.
So, no, okay, I get it from the perspective. I think that would be kind of cool. Although you'd want to have a really healthy feeling around heights, perhaps. That might be a
Perhaps. Yeah. No, I'm okay with that.
you're okay. So, what's your favorite quote, Steve?
Um, probably from a Steve Jobs commencement speech that he gave at Stanford University, where, and I'm going to butcher the quote, but you'll get the gist. You can't connect the dots looking forward, so you have to trust in something, yourself or God or your teammates. You've got to trust in something. You can only connect the dots looking back,
Boy, yeah, very
and
powerful.
and celebrating those victories and connecting those so that you build upon that going forward. Yeah.
Yeah. That's really powerful, because I think we look at some of those greats like Steve Jobs and we think, oh, they have the foresight to know what's going to happen, to make those decisions. But do you know what? Even
No,
those people who have been incredibly successful had to have faith at some point in something they didn't know how it was going to pan out, right? Um,
exactly.
awesome. Last question. If you could go back in time and say one thing to your past self, what would that be?
Um, savor every moment, enjoy the moment.
Yep.
Don't
Yep.
always look too far ahead.
Yeah, good one. I love it. Well, look, Steve, it has been such an honor chatting with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time out. It's been really great hearing about your personal journey and also the journey of LifeVantage. And hey, what's next? Any new exciting Exciting stuff on the horizon for you guys. I mean, I know you've got an incredible product to get back in stock. That's probably
Yeah,
it.
the exciting news is going to be when we have inventory back in
Yeah.
stock. But no, we're not. We're not resting on our laurels. We've got our R&D team is working on the next product already, and we're going to continue to push because again, the opportunity is too big
Yeah.
just to sit back and not take advantage of it.
I love it. Well, thank you again, Steve. It's been so great chatting with you today.
Thanks, Sam.
Really appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you for joining us in this episode of the Direct Selling Accelerator podcast. If you love listening and you found that this was helpful for your direct selling business, please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also check out the recommended video that's popped up on your screen right here. I look forward to seeing you again next time. Bye for now.